everyone, and welcome. We are halfway through spooky month, Halloween month, October here, and here we are at the Understanding Behavior live stream study hall. Lots of exciting things going on. We've got a great list of topics here today. Thank you for everyone who's contributed to that. So we've got rules versus instructions, a little bit on rule-governed behavior, comparative versus component analyses, group contingencies, verbal operants, a little on experimental design, like when do you implement an IV, and IOA. So we'll see how far we get. This is a big list, but maybe we can push through it all. We'll see. Lots of things going on. Thank you guys so much for being here. So yesterday I just announced the first Understanding Behavior course. You can find it on understandingbehavior.shop. There's the Fundamentals of Behavior mini course. Right now this is going to run on November 4th. It's a Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. We're going to review basic contingencies, stimulus discrimination, motivating operations, and schedules of reinforcement. To me, I think these are the most foundational concepts of the principles of behavior. And we're going to go through these really thoroughly until you nail them down. And what I think is like forming this really strong foundation of these skills is going to make your studying journey a lot easier too. So if you do fill out the form to get the notes from this session, I will send you a coupon code where you can get a little discount on this course as well. I highly encourage you sign up. I think it's going to be a really neat thing. Also, when you leave, you'll get notes that will have a fill in the blank exercise to test your maintenance afterwards. So pretty cool, nice value there. All right, well, enough of plugging that. Let's go ahead and get into some of these topics. Yeah, Summer's asking when the class is. It's going to be Saturday, November 4th. So 2 weeks from this Saturday. So coming up, there are going to be limited seats for that. So only 20 seats available. We're almost at 500 subscribers on the Understanding Behavior YouTube channel too. Let me see. So I wanted to do one more little promotion today. So we are at 498 subscribers right now. If we get this number to 500 before the end of this, and I'm pretty sure you guys can do that. 2 subscribers, come on, we can do it. Then I will be giving away a seat to this course for free as well. So one lucky person here is going to get a free seat to that, and we'll give it out live too. We won't even do email follow-up. You will know in this session if you win or not. All right. Well, cool. We've got lots of cool things. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. Cool. Yeah, just subscribed. Okay. That means we're halfway there. Really need one more of y'all. All right. Let's go through this first part. So talking a little bit about rules versus instructions. So yeah, rules kind of an interesting thing. We don't really think about these two. A lot of students don't really think about what this is, but a rule is defined as a verbal description of a behavioral contingency. So basically, it's just describing like an if-then outcome. So like, if I drink water, my mouth will feel cold. If I do jumping jacks, I'm going to get sweaty. Those are all rules. If I order pizza, then pizza's going to be here in like 45 minutes or so. All of those are rules. Comparing this to an instruction, this is more like, think about this as like a demand to engage in a certain task. Is more about what we're referring to with instruction. Hey there, Lily, welcome. Glad to have you here. So that's the difference between rule and instruction. Let's now relate this to rule-governed behavior. So rule-governed behavior is behavior that is under the control of a rule. So essentially what that means is that it's the verbal description that is of the contingency that is the main controlling factor. And what's cool about rules, let me zoom in a little bit better here so you guys can see. What's cool about rules is that rules can control behavior without the behavior contacting the contingency. So kind of cool. It's where just that description alone can actually control the behavior and they don't have to contact the contingencies to do that. Let's add a little bit more onto rules. Rules are most effective when they describe outcomes that are both probable and powerful. So the consequence needs to be likely to occur, and it needs to be a strong consequence for that rule to be effective. And rules that are ineffective often describe outcomes that are small but cumulative. So I think about these as like rules that are hard to follow. So let's look at an example of that. And when we're looking at rules, we have to look at just each individual instance of a behavior. So one rule that does not control my behavior very well is that if I eat a pint of ice cream, I'm gonna get like a little bit fatter. So that rule doesn't really control my behavior. I love ice cream. I love the taste of ice cream. And the reinforcing outcomes way more overpower that small but cumulative punishing outcome. So I'm just a tiny bit fatter, but I mean, come on, Ben and Jerry's. Let's see in chat, what is your favorite Ben and Jerry's flavor if you have one? Mine is the Tonight Dough, but there's like this dirt cake one recently that's like really good. So yeah, go ahead, throw your favorite into Ben & Jerry's into chat. And Yesenia just alerted me that we hit 500 subscribers. Let me see if we did. Oh yeah, that's a cool sight. 500 subscribers. So I mean, you guys are the ones that are here early. Why don't we give away this seat for this session right now? Oh, why don't we do that? Lily doesn't like ice cream. Well, okay. Well, I'm sure there's something else that you can relate to. How about, yeah, so let's get this away right now. You guys are all here. Let's do it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 100, and first person to get, or we're going to do one guess each. And then the closest person to my number is going to win. So let me pick my number. Okay, I got it. So one number each. I'm going to keep this open for like 30 more seconds or so. All right, somebody's pretty close. Nobody's gotten it though. It is 1 to 100. And please only put in one guess. If you put in multiple, you're disqualified. All right. This is going to be last call for answers. All right. We're going to give it to Sarah Beth. The number was, oh my gosh. This just came in. My number was 87. Sergio at the last second stole it away. So Sergio, you are our winner. I will send you a coupon code to get a free seat for the course. I'm so sorry. Actually, Sarah Beth, I teased you there too much. I'm gonna send you if you fill out the form and put your information in, I'm gonna give you a free seat as well since I teased you there. So congrats, Sergio and Sarah Beth, both just won free seats to the Fundamentals of Behavior course. All right, thank you guys so much. 500 subscribers is a big landmark, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate all of you being here. All right, let's get back to learning. We're talking about rule-governed behavior. So we were just talking about rules that are ineffective. Describe outcomes that are small but cumulative. We call these like rules that are hard to follow. So I just gave that example. It's like eating ice cream results in being slightly fatter for each instance. So again, that rule it's not really powerful for my behavior. If you think about, like, I'm not a cigarette smoker, but if you think about cigarette smoking, it's a pretty similar. So it's like like each cigarette just gives you that tiny little bit of cancer. You're inching your way towards cancer, and that doesn't control the behavior for most cigarette smokers. They enjoy their nicotine more than they care about that small little bit of of lung cancer. So like smoking one cigarette only gives a little cancer, so this doesn't control behavior. But let's say we were in like a different world and it's like, if you smoke one cigarette, you will die. Then nobody's ever gonna smoke cigarettes ever. And same thing with like things that are like highly toxic. Is like we don't consume those things because there's probable and powerful outcomes behind them. When it's very likely that like something bad is gonna happen to you, and that something bad is gonna be real bad. It's like if you drink like some kind of poison or whatever, like it's not gonna be a fun time. You probably have to go to the hospital. It's not gonna be a fun time. So it's a powerful consequence. This can also go for reinforcing consequences as well. So, when we know like for certain something good is going to happen, then we're more likely to do those behaviors. So, for example, if I just said like, hey, if you like post a comment on my next post, I'll give you $100,000, then everybody's going to comment on my post. But if you didn't believe that I was actually going to give you that, then it probably wouldn't control that behavior. But it is low effort, so why not? I think that's all we're going to talk about with rule-governed behavior today. I could go on forever about rule-governed behavior, but I think that's a nice little introduction for y'all. Okay. Yeah, Drew on the base saying Sergio's about to pass the exam. I totally believe that, for sure. All right, let's check this next one. It's comparative versus component analysis. So these are experimental analyses, and this is different than experimental designs. Just to clarify. So experimental analysis is essentially like what we compare in a research study, and then experimental design, just for comparison. This is more about like how we set up an experiment to show control of an IV over a DV. So let's get into these two different kind of analyses. The comparative analysis is actually the most common. So the most common kind of analysis. And basically we're comparing similar conditions, or sorry, we're comparing two conditions that are completely similar besides one thing. And the one thing here kind of also means like one thing could be a combination of things. So for example, a treatment package. So when you're looking at like an independent variable, you could look at the treatment package as a whole thing. But basically we're seeing like on and off here. Lily's asking where can she find this in Cooper? Which chapter? I don't have Cooper memorized, unfortunately. I actually like lost my digital copy to Cooper, so I don't have it currently. But this, I would assume that this is under the experimental design section for this one. But today we're kind of jumping all over the place. But for this topic in particular, this would be experimental design. All right, so comparative analysis is we're just doing like on and off comparisons. So baseline versus treatment. And again, like when we're doing a good experiment, those are like the treatment is going to be the same thing except with the treatment condition, baseline is going to be same thing minus that treatment. Now let's talk about component analyses. What this is this is a breakdown of a treatment package to find out which individual components are effective. So a treatment package is a combination of treatments all thrown together. So let's get that definition down here. Combination of treatments thrown together. And who knows, like, why might we run a treatment package? Why might we be running, like, multiple treatments at the same time? What would be a situation where we would just do that right away? Anybody know? So yeah, a lot of people are talking about like why we would do the component analysis. We're trying to figure out like which individual components are effective. But my question was, why would we use a treatment package? Let's review that a little bit. So oftentimes we'll use a treatment package if so we'll use treatment packages if like a single function-based treatment is not enough. Or if we kind of like need rapid reduction in a dangerous behavior. So this one is actually pretty common. So if we have a really dangerous behavior, sometimes we'll just like throw the whole book at the situation. So it's like, okay, we're going to do FCT, we're going to do extinction, we've got punishment here, we've got differential reinforcement of this other behavior. We're also filling them up with NCR and a DRO schedule. So we might try all those different things at once. For example, that wouldn't not what you would do in every case. That would be an example of a treatment package. And then we would do the component analysis later on. So let's say we got the behavior down to 0. Now we would test one component at a time to figure out which components are actually necessary that are reducing that behavior. So what we're doing is, here's kind of like the process for a component analysis is we'll remove one intervention at a time. If the level of the behavior stays the same, we would determine that component is not necessary for the behavior change. And then at that point, we could discard it. So we don't need to do it anymore. And now, if let's say you remove one intervention, if the level of the behavior changes in an undesired direction, then what we would do is we would put it back in and remove other components. So we would repeat that with all of the different components of our treatment package. And that's going to tell us like which ones do we actually need to keep this behavior down and which ones are unnecessary. And it's important to like remove the unnecessary interventions, because think about each intervention as like a restriction or a limitation on a client's environment. And the more restrictions and limitations we can remove, the more independent our client is going to be, and that's exactly what we're aiming for. All right. Sarah Beth is asking, how is that different from dropout? I'm not sure what you're referring to with dropout. If you want to try to explain that a little bit more. But how are we feeling on these? Comparative versus component analysis. Do you guys feel cool on like how we like what this process looks like for a component? All right, sweet. Let's move on to group contingencies. All right, so we've got 3 different kinds of group contingencies. What are those? Gotcha. Yeah, Sarah Beth, I think that's just another label that is describing the same thing. So dropping out or like removing one intervention at a time. I think it's referring to the same thing. All right, sweet. Yeah, Yesenia and Lily. Gail's got it. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, Summer's got them too. So we've got dependent, independent, and then interdependent. So yeah, we're just going to do a real quick speed run on these. I believe we've covered them before in our study halls. So the dependent contingency, this is a group contingency where if one individual or group of individuals meets a criteria, then everyone in the group gets a reinforcer. So that one, let's say like the Denver. I live in Denver. We've been pretty good at sports recently. Not gonna lie. So let's say the Avs win the Stanley Cup, and then the whole town gets a parade. So like the Avs win the Stanley Cup, and the whole crowd gets a parade, or the whole town gets a parade rather. And then we can also use this in like a classroom setting. So if Billy gets 90% on his exam, then the whole family goes out to dinner. And that could be replaced with the classroom too. Either or totally works. Just examples here. Independent group contingency. This is the contingency is available to each individual. And then each individual must meet the criteria for reinforcement. So for example, this would be like every student that gets 90% on their exam will get a gold star sticker. Cool, cool. And then lastly, we have our interdependent. So this is every student or every individual must meet the criteria, behavior criteria for everyone to receive the reinforcer. So this would be like if every student gets 90% or higher on their spelling exam, then the whole class gets a pizza party. So everybody has to meet that criteria, then everybody gets the reinforcer for interdependent. Interdependent is kind of cool, so like it can help like encourage other students, because it kind of like it affects everybody. So oftentimes like high performing students will help underperforming students. So kind of a cool thing that like naturally and socially gets like the underperforming students to rise up to the challenge, so everybody gets that consequence. And the high performing students are like, yeah, you better get it so everybody can get it. So and sometimes there's some really fun and interesting dynamics that emerge when you use interdependent group contingencies. Cool. I feel like most of the time behavior analysts are working with one client at a time. Like it has been cool that there's often like more social groups coming out that different ABA companies are running, but it's kind of hard to do like in the capitalistic health insurance system. If I can get like a boo capitalism in chat, that'd be cool. But basically like capitalism and healthcare, and especially like behavior analytic healthcare, they just don't really clash that well. So there's so many barriers to like doing group therapy sessions. Cool, yeah, Sandy's got the boo capitalism for sure. So yeah, we're gonna survive or die out here. All right, let's talk a little bit about verbal operants. So we're looking at verbal behavior. Essentially, this is behavior that is facilitated through reinforcement from another individual. So kind of a simple way to think about it. Who knows what's the difference between verbal and vocal behavior? What is vocal behavior? How is that different? Yeah, cool. Awesome. You guys are right on track here. Yesenia, Sarah Beth, and Drew. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, great details. Gail as well. So yeah, vocal behavior, that is behavior produced by the vocal cords. And think about verbal behavior is basically just any kind of communication, like communication with other individuals. So, most of our verbal operants are reinforced by generalized conditioned social reinforcement. And really, like that, like GCSR, like really just means like praise or approval from other individuals. Who knows? What is the one verbal operant that is not reinforced by generalized conditioned social reinforcement? Let's see that in chat. So the one verbal operant that's not reinforced by generalized conditioned social reinforcement. Cool. Yeah, a lot of people on it here. Fran, good to see you here. Right on track. Perfect. Yeah, so this one is the man. So the man is the only exception. And this is reinforced by specific reinforcers. So most of the time, since the reinforcement is often the same when analyzing verbal operants, we're more often looking at the relationship between the antecedent and the behavior. So usually it's the consequence we're focusing on. We know like the law of effect, it's the effects of our actions that determine whether we'll repeat them. We're usually looking at like our contingencies, like reinforcement, punishment. Those are all consequence based. But since the consequences are mostly the same here, we're going to study the relationships between the antecedents and the behaviors instead. So we're going to start with our elementary verbal operants first. So yeah, let's just get our list going. Why don't you guys just shoot as many verbal operants as you can into chat right now. Go for it. So we do have the man already. That's on there. What else do we got? Yeah, Sarah Beth has the intraverbal. Perfect. Oh, we've got the tact. Awesome. Echoic. Perfect. All right, how about like some of the like trickier ones? Yeah, so we have codix and duplex. So these are actually like different categories. So like what goes under those categories? If we actually an echoic is a duplex. Cool, yeah, we've got Phasa's got textual here. That's an example of a codec. We've got 2 more duplex and 1 more codec. Who knows them? Good. Zeusel's got transcriptions here. Nice. Summer's got that too. We've got 2 more duplex. Yeah, Yesenia, nice one. Mimetic. That's a tricky one. How about our last one? Anybody know it? It's like stupidly simple. It almost seems like too simple. Yeah, Yesenia, right on track. Text to something. You guys are gonna hate me. This one is copying text. So really straightforward there. Yeah, Yesenia, you're right on track there. Okay, cool. Well, let's look at the MO. Who knows what is the antecedent for an MO? Sorry, we're looking at a man first. I'm confusing all my language. I just gave away the answer to my question. So, man, the antecedent to this is an MO for a specific reinforcer. The behavior is going to be a request for the reinforcer. And then the consequence is going to be that specific reinforcer. So there's our contingency. It's always going to be that motivating operation for that specific reinforcer. So, for example, if you're like out in the cold, you might say like, "Can I borrow your jacket?" And that's a response that has a history of resulting in a jacket. So again, we always want to talk about that past consequence controlling behavior. So it's like asking for a jacket has resulted in a jacket in the past. So that's what makes that behavior occur. Cool. Let's look at an interverbal. So antecedent for this is going to be a verbal stimulus. Behavior is really it's just the interverbal. It's harder to explain like otherwise. It could be a lot of different things. Then we see consequences or GCSR. So this one, the really focus on this antecedent, which is that verbal stimulus. Most of these is that's what we're really focusing on, is just what the antecedent is. Who knows what is the antecedent for attacked? All right, look at some of the answers that we got going on. So Summer, Fran, Gail, right on track. Sarah Beth, those are some examples there. Yeah, for sure. So this one is going to be a non-verbal stimulus as our antecedent. Non-verbal stimulus. So if you look like tax and interverbals, it kind of covers like all the different stimuli. So either it's a verbal stimulus or a non-verbal stimulus. In attacked, usually it's often we call it like a label, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a label. That's more advanced, so we'll keep it at label for now. And then consequence, always the same here, our generalized condition social reinforcement. Cool. Yeah, lots of people got that. Really nice job there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our duplicate now. This is also going to have a vocal verbal stimulus as the antecedent. Our behavior is a little different now. So instead of just being like the interverbal or the tact, in our duplics, what we're doing is like we're duplicating our antecedents. So it's, yeah, I'll say it's VB that is duplicating our antecedents. So yeah, this one is going to be a copy of the antecedent. And then our consequence is going to be our GCSR. Gail did mention that, yes, we do have point-to-point correspondence. So all duplics have point-to-point correspondence. Point-to-point correspondence. And all duplics also have formal similarity. So point-to-point correspondence, what this refers to is that the beginning, middle, and end of the of the antecedent and behavior relate to each other in a meaningful way. So obviously, if we're copying somebody's behavior, that's going to relate in a very meaningful way. Formal similarity is that the antecedent and the behavior share the same response form and be the same thing. So a lot of people miss this part, but technically how Skinner wrote formal similarity, this is how he defines it. But so it's both of these things. It has to share the same response form, and it has to be the same thing, so a copy. So all of our duplics have that because we're just copying what our antecedents are in duplics. Yeah, really nice job, man. You guys are like really on top of verbal behavior. I love to see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at mimetics now. Who knows what is the antecedent for a mimetic? I was thinking of this as like miming. I don't know if that's like discriminatory, but that's how I think about it. Anybody know this one? I know mimetics are probably like the least talked about verbal operant. It's not a non-verbal stimulus. It is still a verbal stimulus in our antecedent. I'll tell you that. Anybody else want to give this a go? Tricky. So the antecedent for a mimetic is actually going to be a motor verbal stimulus. Yeah, so Zeusel was actually really close there. So it could be sign language is a great example of a mimetic. So this would be like you sign something and then I sign something. So we're looking at my mimetic there because I would copy that. I mean, there's also signs that communicate messages without having to be necessarily like part of ASL. So like everybody knows like the peace sign or like the over there or like the bird. All of those are different motor verbal stimuli. If the antecedent of that is being presented with that, and then you copy that because of that, a mimetic occurred. Let's look at our behavior here. This is a copy of the motor verbal stimulus. And as always, our consequence is going to be our GCSR. Good. Yeah, Zeusel right on track. Motor verbal imitation. Love it. Copying text, I think, is the most straightforward verbal operant if you can remember it. But luckily, it's a multiple choice exam that y'all are facing. So, copying text, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but this is a written verbal stimulus. And then our behavior is like writing a copy of the antecedent. And of course, GCSR. All right. So duplics are duplicating the antecedents. Codics are we're like decoding the antecedent in a new response form. So codics, they either have point-to-point correspondence or they have formal similarity. Which one is it? We're a little bit of both here. Where are we going? Where are we going, crew? All right, yeah, this one is going to be point-to-point correspondence. So in this one, the beginning, middles, and ends are going to match with each other or like relate in some meaningful way. But they don't have formal similarity, so they're not. They don't share response forms with each other. So let's go through a textual behavior first. So in this one, our antecedent is a written stimulus. Our behavior is reading the written stimulus. And this will be vocally. And then our consequence would be GCSR. So think about like textual as like reading. So these have point-to-point correspondence with each other, the written stimulus and the vocal stimulus that's produced by it, but it doesn't have formal similarity. So they're different response forms. One is written, one is vocal. But let's just say like we're looking at this word, beginning. These letters correspond with the sounds, beginning. So they relate to each other in a meaningful way, and that's what makes that a verbal behavior. So textual behavior, written stimulus, and we're reading that vocally. Think about too, so one really interesting conceptualization that a lot of people don't think about is that your thoughts are just verbal operants happening at all the time. So when you're like reading something privately, yes, it's still a textual behavior. Instead of vocally doing it outwardly, though, it's like vocally doing it inwardly. So it's the same operand. It's reinforced by the same thing, except that it's all happening internally. So yeah, behavior analysis, it gets really weird when you realize that like, yeah, your thoughts are like predetermined by your environment too, and they're not just like free will, I think whatever I want. They're totally influenced by your environment. So kind of that's one of like those like conceptualizations and realizations that just like blew my mind away. I know a lot of you guys are like still in school or like recently finished school. Hopefully you had like a lot of like deep philosophical discussions like that, but kind of cool to think about. Yeah, thanks, Michael. I will. All right, let's look at our transcription behavior now. So who knows, like, what's the easy way to like think about like transcription? So textual is kind of like reading. For those of you that don't know, Michael Jones in chat here was my philosophical partner in grad school, so we had lots of behavior nerding back and forth. He's a good pal. Cool, yeah, so Fran's talking about like court here. Yeah, Yesenia, listening and typing. I like that. Perfect. Yeah, Gail transcribing notes, spoken to written from Summer. Perfect. Yeah. So think about this as like writing down what you hear. So let's look at our contingency. We're going to have a vocal stimulus as our antecedent. Our behavior is going to be writing or typing. What was said. And then our consequence, of course, is going to be our GCSR. Yeah, for real. Michael's right on track. The crowd has been killing it tonight. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so that's our transcription. Those are our two codecs. So again, we're decoding the antecedent. These all have point-to-point correspondence to each other. So there's some relation between the antecedent and the behavior, and that's meaningful. So we can look at reading or writing down what you hear for our codecs. Alrighty. Yeah, we got. How about like we'll hit a little bit on these two, and then we'll wrap up. So this next one, when do you implement an independent variable? So oftentimes, what we want to do is like typically we will look for stable data before we implement an independent variable. But this isn't for all of our experimental designs. There's one experimental design where you actually don't care about the data at all. Let's see in chat, especially if you've attended the experimental design live stream that we did a few weeks ago, you might be keen on this. So one experimental design, we do not have to worry about the data to implement something. Which one is that? I'll give you guys some answer options. We have either the withdrawal design, the alternating treatments design, the multiple baseline design, or the change criterion design. Tough question. I'm checking that maintenance of skills here. All right, I like where the answers are going. Summer, first answer there, very brave. And she is ready for her exam on Monday. Killing it. So this one, yes, is our alternating treatments design. So that's when we're rapidly alternating between the conditions. We don't necessarily have to wait for any data pattern. We're just always rapidly alternating between them. Goes crazy. So in our withdrawal or multiple baseline design, so we definitely need to see like that stable pattern before we implement an IV. There are a few exceptions to that, but we won't get too into those. We'll say like this is not applicable to alternating treatments. And this is where we're rapidly alternating between conditions. Maybe we will get into the other part. So also, another time where we'll like change conditions or implement an IV. So you can also change conditions if the data are trending in the opposite direction intended by the following condition. So let's draw a little graph here, because yeah, graphs are cool. So let's say we have some kind of problem behavior in our dependent variable. We have our baseline. The data are ascending. So the problem is getting worse. So we're going to make a prediction that the problem is going to continue to get worse if we were to continue data collection. But instead, we're going to implement our intervention because we totally can. Let's say this decreases it to 0. Sweet. We love to see that. Huge drop off there. And now we see this big change in the levels between our conditions. So that's great to see. But to confirm experimental control, what we need to do is reverse back to that condition. And then if the problem behavior comes back, we really only need to do like 1 or 2 data points there just to like not stress the issue anymore. Now we have experimental control. And then we can implement our intervention back. And hopefully we get it back to 0. So in this one, we had a trend here. It was getting worse in our baseline data. So what we're able to do is we can phase change there right away, and we can still show experimental control. So kind of neat. All right. We'll talk a little bit about IOA. We have gone into this in some of the other streams, so check out those if you want to get like a more thorough analysis. I think one day we did continuous measurements and one day we did discontinuous measurements. So we'll kind of just like hit on like general IOA right now, and everybody thinks they need to memorize the formulas for all these different IOAs, and I say don't. I think you're gonna like really hurt your brain, especially if you're not a math person. And I am a math person, and I honestly don't know the formulas off the top of my head, but I can always solve IOA. You don't need the formulas to do IOA, is what I'm trying to tell you. So let's go ahead and most of the time, like what we're doing is we're taking, like most of the time, take the small number divided by the big number. That's like the secret to IOA. And then like know the different subtypes and how you might need to modify that. And basically like what you need to think here too is that like the mean IOA per interval is really effortful, but the rest are easy. So let's look. Let's make a quick little data set here, and let's do some IOA. So IOA is always actually let's talk about what IOA even is first. So it stands for Inter-Observer Agreement, and essentially what it's looking at is the extent to which two independent observers agree on what happened. So let's go ahead. We'll have a couple different sessions. So this will be session number. Actually, no. This will just be observation 1, or observer 1 rather. We'll have observer 2, and then we'll put their data into here, and then this is where we'll do our math or like agreements. So let's just build a data set. I'm going to do a discontinuous one here. So we'll do plus, plus, minus, minus, plus, minus, plus. We'll leave it there. And then let's do minus, minus, or minus, plus, minus, minus, plus, plus. So the most common type of IOA that we'll do for our discontinuous measurements is interval by interval. So interval by interval, what we're doing is we're just like seeing check if each interval agreed, then take number of agreed over total number of intervals. So careful, it's not going to be total agreed over disagreed. It's going to be agreed over total number of intervals that you observe. So one tricky part there. So let's see for each of these whether they agree or not. So plus and minus, the two observers disagreed here. Next one, they both had plus, so this one's going to be an agree. They both had minus here. This is going to be another agree, minus, agree, plus, agree. And then this one here, one had minus, one had plus, so this one would be a disagree. Now what we see is that we have 4 intervals where they agreed, 2 where they disagreed. So this one is going to be 4, the number of intervals agreed, divided by 6, the total number of intervals. And then we'll get a clean 67% IOA here. Not so great. Good IOA is 80% plus. So that's kind of like the standard for any kind of research out there is you want to hit that 80% IOA mark. If you don't hit that 80% IOA mark, it's a good chance your research is actually just going to get discarded. Most of the time, IOA for like a published Java article is going to be in the 90 to 98% range. So 80% is the low bar. You definitely want to aim for like 90 plus. Cool. Yeah, and thanks for answering that for me, Drew. Perfect. Yeah, you can view these live sessions on my channel at any time you want. So so that's our interval by interval. We have the 2 different modifications for the discontinuous measurements as well. So we have our unscored interval. Let's get these highlights off. Unscored interval and then scored interval. So unscored interval, only focus on intervals where at least one observer did not, or like marked a non-occurrence. And then scored interval is the opposite. So only focus on intervals where at least one observer marked an occurrence. So unscored interval, we'll use this for, let me think here. So we focus on the ones where they don't occur. So that means this is going to be used for high rate behavior. So think about it's like there's going to be fewer intervals with non-occurrences. So we focus only on those because they're more interesting. And then the opposite is true for scored intervals. So we'll use this for low rate behavior. And again, it's fewer intervals with occurrences. So we focus only on those because they're more interesting. Interesting, not interested. So let's do real quick. We'll do scored and unscored interval for this one. Sorry, I think this got a little messed up here. There we go. So our scored interval, let's do unscored interval first. So only focus on the ones where at least one person said non-occurrence. So that means we have to discount this interval and we have to discount this interval. They don't matter at all because nobody said it didn't occur there. So then we would take 1 to agreeances out of 4 total intervals, and then we would get 50% IOA there. So we would discount this interval, we would discount this interval, and then focus on the rest, and that would get us 2 out of 4, 50%. And then if we did the unscored interval, we're going to look at the ones where at least one observer, or sorry, we're doing scored interval now. We're looking at ones where at least one observer marked an occurrence. So that means we would discount these 2 intervals and we would only calculate the rest. So again, we would have 2 agreeances out of 4 total intervals. So that would be another 50% IOA here. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. It's glad to see a bunch of familiar faces and some new faces here as well. If you're new here, hope you really enjoyed the session. Couple things to wrap up the session. If you would like to receive the notes from this live stream, go ahead and fill out that form and I'll make sure to get that to you. Congratulations to Sergio and Sarah Beth. I have Sergio's email. Sarah Beth, if you could just make sure to fill out that form too, I will hand you a code. Congratulations on your free seat to the Fundamentals of Behavior course. And then, yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more from me, I would love to teach you. I'm trying to keep expanding. And thank you guys so much for getting me to 500 subscribers tonight. That's such a super cool thing. You can visit my store at understandingbehavior.shop. I think this fundamentals course is like really high value for how much it costs, and it's going to be a really great experience. So definitely consider that if you feel like you struggle with some of these concepts. If you do want some more personalized tutoring, I have packages available for that as well. You can even tutor with a friend, and it only comes out to $35 each for an hour session. Very similar format to this. You'll get all the notes from the session. You get a guide however you want, whatever you want to go over, or if you want professional opinion on what things are important to review, I'm happy to offer that as well. I know Summer said she's testing on Monday. Wish her good luck. Is anybody else testing soon? Yesenia next month. Cool. November 20th. Gail on the 26th of this month. Cool. Sarah Beth just got approved. That's a huge landmark. Flavian, 3 weeks. Carrie Lynn, November 8th. November 1st for Miss TJ. Lots of people testing soon. I hope you guys are feel good. Yeah, Yesenia, I would love to help you. Feel free to reach out. You can also email me at understandingbehaviorofficial@gmail.com. I'm in Colorado, so I'm in Mountain Time. I have a pretty flexible schedule, so it can usually go make things work. But yeah, good luck to everyone who is testing soon. I know I'll see a lot of you in the next few days. And if not, I hope to see you at the next session next week. We'll probably do an hour later next week just because my schedule works a little bit better for me. So keep an eye out on all my pages. I'll be posting about it, so stay tuned. And yeah, I'm really excited to continue working with you all. Thank you for being here, and I'll catch you at the next one. Laters.